More details have emerged about Nissan's crisis and what they're trying to do to get out of it. I think what they're doing won't be enough. I believe the company has, well, no choice other than to accept Honda's offer to essentially acquire it, or it will be purchased probably on the scrap heap by a Chinese conglomerate. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the channel. I'm Sam Evans. You're watching The Electric Viking. Great to have you with us. There's a lot of confusion out there. Journalists are saying stuff that's completely untrue. They're saying Nissan's making a profit. Nissan's not making a profit. In fact, for the last 3 successive quarters, they made a loss, hundreds of millions of dollars of losses, in fact. And they have a $7 billion US debt balloon repayment that they have to pay. Apparently, executives from the company have said that they can't pay that, which would make sense, especially when you consider the fact that Nissan's car sales continue to drop. It's not as though they're saying, oh, don't worry, it's going to be okay. This was just one quarter. Their car sales dropped nearly every quarter last year. And there is no way that this is not going to continue, especially in China. And considering China, 31 million cars were sold in China last year of an 80 million global car market. Nearly 40% of all cars were sold in China. If Nissan is in crisis in China, they're in crisis everywhere. And clearly, we all know what's happening in China. I believe Nissan will probably cease to exist in China within 5 to 7 years, potentially not just in China, also elsewhere. Nissan has announced a raft of drastic cost-saving measures to try and turn around its recent financial woes, with at least 3 factories being closed down. Now, this was after they've already closed down, I believe it was 4 factories last year as well. Now, for those of you who are big Nissan fans, guys, Nissan doesn't go out and say, hey, everyone, look, we're closing down a factory. Look, see, closed down, fired all those staff there. So if you're a fan of Nissan, you're probably not going to find this information because Nissan's not trying to advertise it. It's kind of like what the Philadelphia 76ers did, right? When they had Joel Embiid, their superstar player. He has essentially what people believe might be a career-ending injury. They announced it on the day of the Super Bowl. Right? Less people are going to hear about it if you announce the news on the day of the Super Bowl. So that's what these companies do. They quietly release information in quarterly reports, and they basically don't say, hey, everyone, look at this. Look what's happening. Overnight, Nissan announced its quarterly financial results, which included official confirmation that its proposed merger with Japanese brand Honda was dead. Now, many thought that this would save Nissan, but Nissan did not want to be essentially dictated to or owned by Honda, which is insane. I mean, they don't have much choice here. I think this was the best offer that they were ever going to get. No one else has offered to help them. Right? No one else has said, yeah, no worries, Nissan, we'll save you. Honda was the only one. And when Honda's CEO was asked how this benefits them, he couldn't come up with an answer. And the reason he couldn't come up with an answer is because he doesn't know. So Nissan decided it wasn't worth doing because they didn't want to be basically, they want to save face by not having these overlords, Honda's overlords, dictate to them what happens at the company. But considering the fact that Nissan's total value of its company is 20% versus what Honda is worth, well, I'd say that's just what you have to accept in this situation. And when you can't pay your own bills and someone else is offering to pay it, I don't think you've got much choice. According to Nissan, though, its planned cost-saving measures are expected to bring savings of around $4.2 billion by the 2026 Japanese fiscal year. For context, its operating profit slid from $4.7 billion in April to December 2023 to $663 million across the same period in 2024. Net income dropped by 320 billion yen to 3.3 billion, so that's only 52.8 billion. Now, that's the headline people are reading, but the reality is here that Nissan actually reported an operating profit down by 87% in the first 9 months of 2024. Down by to be exact, 86.6%. So really what Nissan are also saying is that 2025 is going to be equally difficult. They're not even predicting themselves that 2025 is going to be a year where they're going to actually make any real profit and be able to pay off their debts. Nissan does have a lot of debt, keep that in mind, and the interest rates they are paying on their debt are higher than other automotive companies. The reason, well, when your debt is rated at junk, you've got to pay higher interest on loans. Nissan said it would restructure its top management by eliminating its corporate officer system and reducing top management positions by 20% starting from the next fiscal year, which begins this April. The company lowered its operating profit forecast by 20% to 120 billion yen, which is peanuts. And they're saying in order to achieve all these austerity cost reduction measures, they are going to lay off 2,500 employees globally, although they've previously said that would be just over 9,000. So I'm not sure if this is an additional 2,500 on top of the 9,000. It could be. That they say will give them 100 billion yen in savings by consolidating production lines, adjusting shift patterns, and transferring jobs, starting with 3 plants in Q1 full year 2025. Now, yes, what they're doing is a combination of two things here. There's a bit of confusion here. I've just got a comment that I've read here. Someone saying, they're not shutting down factories. This isn't true. Look, did you not read? They're only shutting down a production line. That's not actually true. They're shutting down production lines in some factories, and in other factories, they're shutting down the factory entirely. So it's a combination of those things. Basically, we already know this. I've already shared this information on the channel. This has already happened in the United States. They've started to shut down some production lines in the United States, and they've shut down some factories elsewhere, including China, Thailand, and other countries as well. So lots to take in here if you're a Nissan investor. Why you'd be a Nissan investor at this point in time, I've got no idea. Here's the big risk that Nissan are facing. The United States is Nissan's second most important market. China's number one, and obviously that market there is only going to shrink continually for the next, 3-4 years until they probably cease to exist in China, which is going to be devastating for them. But the second most important car market for Nissan is the United States. Trump is saying he's going to put 25% tariff on cars coming from Mexico. Where does Nissan make cars that they sell in the United States? A very large percentage of those cars are manufactured in Mexico. If the Trump tariffs go ahead, Nissan's production of vehicles in Mexico will be essentially worthless. They won't be able to continue selling those cars in the United States because a 25% tariff would mean they would make zero profit. They'd be making a loss on those vehicles. Their only option would be to massively increase the prices. And as you can imagine, considering Nissan's inventory problems, where they had insane amounts of inventory of old models over the last 12 months and had to put big discounts on them, people are not going to pay. They're not going to pay an additional 20%. Let's say they just said, well, we'll eat 5% of those costs, even though that's going to be even difficult in itself, and raise prices by 20%. Even that would be impossible. That would be something they can only do for a few days before they'd simply run out of money. So Nissan is in a very difficult situation here where the two most important markets it has, the United States and China, are really on a knife's edge. So what are your thoughts, guys? What do you think? Do you think Nissan will survive 2030? I don't. I think it's extremely unlikely that they will survive 2030. I believe someone else, some kind of conglomerate, will have to purchase them, bail them out. I don't know how that's going to play out. Maybe Geely, I've speculated on. Geely have quite a few foreign brands. That might be palatable. Of course, if it was a state-owned company like SAIC, that might not be palatable for the Japanese. What are your thoughts on this? Let me know in the comments.